SCP-6747. SCP-6747 is the terminal goal of Project Ex Machina, an immediate class priority. As such, virtually unlimited resources have been made available for its completion. Said project is to be maintained by a quorum of relevant archetypals and non-consent personnel, as supervised by the Advisor, 05-8, and Dr. Place H. M.D., Scientific Liaison to the Lesser Council, also known as the 04 Council. SCP-6747 necessitates the creation and indefinite maintenance of SCP-6747-A. Each member of SCP-6747-A possesses different but substantial computational resource requirements, unable to be properly accounted for and predicted by typical n-dimensional geometric formal logic systems. The Archetypicals Division STF Special Task Force is to remain situated about SCP-6747-A for their natural durations, editing them via fictional injection as required by SCP-6747. No member of SCP-6747-A should be allowed to end premature to its natural cadential movement for a potential risk of anti-narrative formation within SCP-6747-B. One A-class member of personnel possessing proficiency in parapsychology must be present at all times to soothe the SCP-6747-B should it wake from its primary function. Soothing is to be administered via dopamine injection and/or controlled shock. Personnel are to be reminded that SCP-6747-B is functionally deceased, and that reactivations of persistent neuron chains do not constitute consciousness. SCP-6747 is a theoretical process by which to reinstate deceased personnel, mesofictional injection. This process necessitates the indefinite maintenance of casualty level 6747, CB-6747, a pocket universe which would be manipulated through the shared imagination of fictional scenarios taking place within it. Fictionalized entities could then theoretically be retrieved and reinstated into baseline reality, a Foundation-made vessel to transport to alternate narratives. SCP-6747-A collectively designates the isolated micro-universes that have been created as candidates for CB-6747. Today, 3 such candidates exist. SCP-6747-A1, a null space void maintained at 0 domals, theoretically possessing no physical, causal, or narrative potential. Maintained as a mathematical reference, through its effectiveness in communication with pattern-based entities is noteworthy. SCP-6747-A2, a 1.5/2/1 space, methodological testing universe dedicated to the study of narrative, ontogenetic processes, meta/mesofictional interactions. Through the creation of fictionalized document SCP-5875, a species of semi-fictional entities were instated into SCP-6747-A2 due to the universal structures, recursive fractional topology. Narrative structures became enhanced through self-referential mutation, appealing to their own artificial universal narrative to an anomalous degree. These entities were thereby obligated to cooperate with the Foundation in harnessing their inner universe's physics for the transfer of narrative energy to relevant personnel, achieving knowledge/aptitude in various subjects. SCP-6747-A3, an M/3/1 space, where M is the rational number equivalent to log, is a theoretical lowest proportion of narrative dimensionality to typical 3/1 space, in which any meaningful story structures can be sustained. Effectively, it is the minimum fictional complexity required for an arbitrary entity to achieve an arbitrary goal. Simple interactions with SCP-6747-A3 can be formally stated and computed using narrative arithmetic. SCP-6747-B refers interchangeably to the K incubator/narrative generator, the micro-universe creation and manipulation mechanism which sustains SCP-6747-A, or Shit. Sorry, my monitor just cut out while I'm recording this. God damn it. My power went out. Sorry, give me a second. Sorry. I'm not making a bit. My monitor actually just... The feed just cut out for a second. Sorry about that. Okay. Or the brain, spinal cord, and general nervous system of Dr. Jonathan A. King, deceased, functioning as Team's primary computing system. SCP-6747 was initially theorized by the Pataphysics Department Dr. Place H. M.D., Ph.D., following Dr. King's expiration on September 13, 2029. King, the simultaneous head of agriculture, biology, chemistry, xenobiology, possessed significant anomalous mental augmentations and capabilities, allowing the concurrent admin management of over 800 individual anomalies and their relevant operations. Later deemed a medical accident on King's behalf, his vacancy left significant Foundation operations without leadership, resulting in 92 containment breaches of anomalous items pending review for immediate direction. Losses incurred by the Foundation exceeded $1.4 million in recontainment and veil maintenance alone. Overseer Council, in hearing Dr. PhMD's proposal for the enactment of SCP-6747, eventually authorized its execution under Project Ex Machina. After this, we are then given an excerpt from Intro to Narrativics in General Relativity by Dr. Placeholder M. Doctorate, Ph.D. What does it mean for a universe to be partially or wholly fictional from a physical perspective? A typical conception of fiction as non-real or pre-written is partially misaligned from modern understanding. In the pataphysical sense, fictionality denotes the extent to which one reality cannot can affect and or be affected by universes to which it is petaphysically linked, i.e., it is imagined by a sapient entity as a non-real scenario. In a similar sense, fictionality denotes the proportion to which any given event can be caused by the imagination of a sapient entity or in another similar universe. The antiquated terms for these entities are authors for higher beings and metafictional entities for lower ones. The present pataphysical model views all entities as characters, each possessing its own narrative potential energy relating to its mass, velocity, and narrative trajectory, latent Akiva radiation, and Dalmo environment. Every known functional reality space to date possesses at least one narrative dimension. The simplest case is the narrative one-dimensional universe, which is wholly fictional, and only exists in the minds of its imaginers. Characters in this universe are one-dimensional, often called flat characters as they lack narrative depth on physical, metaphysical, and pataphysical levels to make independent decisions from their author. Anything that happens in a narratively one-dimensional universe is 100% tied to an event that a pataphysically linked entity imagines simultaneously on another plane of existence. The second simplest case is our own reality, which is narratively two-dimensional. This universe space is unique in its narrative balance, as it possesses one fictional dimension and one real dimension. It is 50% fictional and 50% real. On average, across our entire universe, 50% of the events are caused by influence by pataphysical transmission, also known as imagining, while the other 50% are governed by our universe's own laws and physics. The author entities, i.e. hyperdimensional characters pataphysically linked to our universe, exist in three greater narrative dimensions, each increasing the extent to which its perspective reality is real. That is to say, a universe possessing three narrative dimensions, one fictional and two real, is 33% fictional and 66% real. As such, narrative phenomena are significantly less prevalent. As narrative dimensions increase, it is hypothesized to cause a greater proportion of inspiration to be derived from lower universes, and the reduced prevalence of narrative/imagined structures, including but not limited to physical, metaphysical, and anomalous phenomena, resulting in hyperdimensional entities' desire to imagine non-real scenarios in which said phenomena are possible. These consequences of our universal tendency to become more real with additional narrative dimensions are thought to be responsible for most anomalous phenomena in the local reality group, From a practical standpoint, what exactly does it mean for an event to be partially fictional? To best understand this concept, we first must understand how exactly inspiration is transferred from one pataphysical universe to another. When a sub-two-dimensional character imagines a non-real scenario, its pataphysical intent becomes encrypted as narrative data. This narrative intent particle, dubbed the Imaginon, exists simultaneously in all narratively lower dimensions, projecting into that universe's total Imaginon structure. Imaginons of different types react to create narrative structures, which combine into larger narrative structures, and so on. Given the universe's composite Imaginon structure is called its universal narrative, in a sense, this is a universe's one fictional dimension. It is tied to the structures of its universe at a physical level. This can be best understood by observing an approximation of our own. At the simplest levels, this manifests as a two-step abstraction. Its metaphor of unknown becoming, known realized as particles breaking apart and reforming again. On larger scales, the extent to which the given structure's behaviors imitate this depends on its resting narrative potential, corresponding to its likelihood to inspire hyperdimensional entities to imagine its existence. Generally, lower entropy structures are more likely to function as central entities in story dimensions, making them more protagonistic. Most humans, around 96%, fall within the 0.01 dimensions of a narrative baseline, therefore are generics. The standard lot of characters not included in the larger story structures due to inherent disinterest. Approximately 1.88% of humans score below 2 on the pH narrative complexity scale, i.e. they possess low, below average narrative potential. This indicates that they are more likely to be influenced and acted upon by narrative structures around them, causing them to conform into archetypal roles. The standard narrative spacetime model incorporates 12 archetypes, based in the Jungian pataphysics. Briefly put, protagonists possess slightly more independence from narrative structures than average, as they are able to bend story structures towards their goals, while archetypicals are slightly more suggestible to serving as vessels. Protagonism is viewed internally as a form of light reality bending, agreeing with the modern ontokinetic conception that any and all reality-bending effects can be traced to a distortion of one or greater narrative/spatial or temporal dimensions. This relationship is reciprocal. For example, a black hole significantly distorts narrative space-time in its vicinity, a form of non-anomalous reality bending, granting itself both physical and narrative gravity. This entails that the black hole will draw other higher-density characters, protagonists, towards itself, increasing the likelihood that they will engage in story structures within it. In the O4 Command Summit, Drs. James Michaels, placeholder MD, Alistair Vemhoff, and Ethan McCarthy Jr. and Daniel Ashworth discuss the possibility of bending the universe to resurrect the dead. Ashworth argues that humans have been doing this for thousands of years, and that the project is based off decades of research. The Pataphysics Department, founded with the motto of killing our gods, now seeks to become their own gods. Vemhoff questions the cost of maintaining a local reality space and the personnel required to maintain it daily. He suggests that they would bring back anyone, including Hannah or Raya. Dr. Ashworth points to Dr. PhMD, who believes it's safe, but Vemhoff casts a vote in favor. The final vote tallied 41 to 40, leading to an Overseer Council vote of approved, declaring Project Ex Machina for resource request. Addendum 4. Project Proposal. September 13, 2029, in a Project Ex Machina initial proposal. Purpose: to revive relevant admin personnel to a state preceding their natural death by injection into a mesofictional casualty bubble and subsequent retrieval via the Paradox Exodus machine. Abstract: a member of an A-class personnel serving a significant admin capacity perished accidentally and requires revival to resume duty. Various other methods of resurrection have been proven unsuccessful due to the inherent imprecision and replication of consciousness state traits in that resting narrative of potential and topology. As such, SCP-6747 is to be pursued as a method of reproducing heavily protagonistic characters. Method: SCP-6747 success is not dependent on the existence of maintenance existence/maintenance of a resurrected entity's physical body. Coincidentally, late senior admin Dr. J.A. Kane's brain possesses several anomalous augmentations, granting it creative and interpretational capabilities far beyond human or computational capacity. As such, said brain and associated nervous system is to be excised and incorporated as the central computing system of SCP-6747-B, a pocket dimension/pocket universe creation/manipulation/maintenance engine. SCP-6747-B will be used to study the universes of varying dimensionalities, specifically those which are mathematically curious or possess behaviors yet undefined. Study data will then be employed to generate a casualty bubble, SCP-6747, capable of fully replicating personnel and narrative and intellectual capabilities, using as few resources as necessary. M is reserved as the theoretical lowest possible value of a narrative topological complexity able to sustain functional narrative structures in M3/1 space. In M narrative dimensions, SCP-6747's narrative possesses a linear structure that can be directly edited via injection of imagined particle types. General 8-step cylindrical extraction. A character rests in a known state, is motivated to change the state, enters an unknown state, searches to enact said change, rotates a vessel to allow said inaction, retrieves said vessel at significant cost, returns to the known world, having enacted its desired changes. Corresponding to 8 categories of imaginal particle: Nullian, neutral narrative particle, 0 spin. 1. Motivation, change structure initializer, unidirectional spin. 2. Exploron binds with motivations to yield resolve-ons, bidirectional spin. 3. Resolve-on, bidirectionally motivates structural resolution producing. 4. McGuffeon, omnidirectionally linked, high-density particles composed of complex motivon/motivon-resolve-on chains. 5. Sacrion, bidirectionally linked particle necessary for formation of retornon, unidirectionally linked, reintegrates imaginon structures with macro narrative. 7. Potential boson, theoretical particle responsible for the potential field, through which the narrative energy is released following the successful execution of the narrative-aligned story structures. SCP-6747 attempts. On November 7, 2019, following the successful initialization of all Project Ex Machina subcomponents, SCP-6747-B was used to generate and stabilize casualty bubble SCP-6747-A3 to ascertain if the universe is sufficiently narrative anchored and can be utilized for SCP-6747. The following tests were attempted. Attempt A13, to generate a simple narrative describing a single red apple, and attempt extraction to baseline. Pre-constructed narrative accepted into SCP-6747-A3's universal structure. Despite minor power and stability fluctuations observed shortly thereafter, the bubble gradually approached stability following the test conclusion. Retrieved item exhibits inexplicable narrative phenomena, simultaneously displaying characteristics of protagonistic and archetypal entities. Various site operations were impeded by the said items' sudden relevance and plurality of local story structures. Research is ongoing. Attempt B27. Generate a minimal narrative describing a deceased canine. Prior to its death, an attempt extraction of significant narrative density to baseline. Pre-constructed narrative accepted. Over a 72-hour period, SCP-6747 undergoes slight fluctuation in narrative topology, eventually stabilizing to manifest the expected outcome. Following its extraction to baseline, the retreat entity exhibited behaviors limiting that of cliched protagonistic canine, disregarding all known pre-resurrection traits. The anesthetization request has been denied, despite the heightened frequency of SCP-6747-B soothing duties. Attempt C-30. Generate a static narrative describing a human male working as an experienced technical engineer for Project Ex Machina, and extract a baseline. Reconstructed narrative accepted into SCP-6747-A3 structure. SCP-6747-B experiences a number of large power fluctuations and high temperatures over an 80-hour period, as the reality bubble slowly approaches stability. Narrative structure eventually fully processes without exceptional complications. Resultant entity self-identifying as Technician John H. Doe exhibits a cooperative and cordial personality, and regularly performs repairs on secondary SCP-6747 equipment. Due to the above-average intelligence, capacity for advanced problem-solving, and overall expertise, Doe has been granted official government employment within the Foundation, and is presently assigned to Project Ex Machina. SCP-6747-C is a pervasive hazardous anti-narrative complex derived from and manifesting as a mesofictional caricature of late senior admin J.A. King. For reasons yet to be fully understood, SCP-6747-C causes the disruption of large-scale Imaginon structures and universes to which it is fully pataphysically linked, corrupting its own while annihilating anything that is of any higher dimension. SCP-6747-C appears primary proximal to particular anti-remes, including but not limited to perceived antagonism, darkness, spirals, the integer value 7, classical tragic conventions, modern comedic conventions, apples, apple seeds, and related products. SCP-6747-C resides within and possesses ultimate control over SCP-6747-A3, and has recursively manipulated its narrative structure to achieve anti-naramic and onto-connect abilities. All attempts to communicate with SCP-6747-B are complicated and obscured by poor Imaginon decryption, leading to mischaracterization of the baseline Foundation as an antagonistic Defic force. Manipulations are further hindered by frequent malfunction on behalf of SCP-6747-B, which has begun to demonstrate a tendency to inject SCP-6747-A with undesirable narems. SCP-6747-C regularly populates SCP-A3 and -D with lesser mesofictional caricatures of other essential technical research and admin personnel. SCP-6747-C and D display varying degrees of cognitive and logical deterioration, often using their onto-connect abilities to generate anomalous weaponry for far beyond baseline capability. SCP-6747-3 now functions according to narrative logic and is fundamentally broken and chaotic. Its inhabitants are granted varying abilities at non-intuitive intervals. The results of these abilities are directly prejudicial to baseline reality and its topological stability. Any latent operational capabilities within your SCIP net access terminal are henceforth dedicated to computing counter-narems to SCP-6747-C's degradational effect. Relevant storylines must be abandoned within 7 minutes. Contact attempts. Following the corruption of SCP-6747-A3, Project Ex Machina was immediately halted. All relevant resources and personnel were redirected to the foundation of the corrupted reality's influence on baseline. As a result, Project Ex Diabolos was officially approved, tasked with researching, analyzing, and eventually neutralizing the threat posed by the newly antagonistic SCP-6747-A. Despite several months of research and analysis, attempts to decrypt SCP-6747-A3's narrative corruption have proven not universally unsuccessful. It's hypothesized that the universe's Imaginon structures occupy a topology that remains foreign to the human patasphere. The following transcript is the only encrypted portion thus far, due to its inclusion of relatively simpler narems. Date: April 1st, 2030. Parties present: SCP-6747-C, BRT, KDK, and COF. SCP-6747-A3 was observed to gradually gain narrative complexity over the following large duration, nearing levels comparable to baseline. Containment personnel were subsequently altered to this deviance and attempted to focus measurements on equipment measurement equipment on source, resulting in SCP-6747-A3's rapid descent to its prior narrative topology. Research into this is ongoing. The video feed depicts the Site-19 Director's Office, occupied by 4 persons: SCP-6747-D-BRT, KDK, and CLF. They remain motionless until SCP-6747-A3 reaches comparable narrative topology to baseline. Reality distorts in vintage-jet style, but the characters do not take note. CLF questions the second coming of Antichrist and claims that they are inevitably and irreversibly fucked. SCP-6747-C, a powerful entity, promises more power in exchange for servitude. KDK protests against this, arguing that they cannot reach the people that are imprisoned in Site-19. -C returns to its throne with visible exhaustion and blinks twice. KDK questions the intelligence to the 3 entities, but SCP-6747-C insists that their chaos theory is their salvation. 6747-C points towards a blackboard and draws formulae and diagrams with no apparent significance, claiming that something is gaining power with each move. CLF groans, saying that they are in a triple nested story that's falling apart because it's so utterly stupid. The Doctor points towards the Foundation camera and gazing into SCP-6747-A3, and CLF reassures KDK that their plan will continue. KDK expresses boredom in the situation, stating that they are not bored by the chaos theory. In 2030, a crisis meeting was held with Director PHMD, Director Vemoff, and Director Ashworth, and the Lesser Council, the O4 personnel. The issue at hand was SCP-6747-A3. PHMD explains that SCP-6747-A3 was designed with minimal narrative complexity. When a powerful entity, also known as the King, was inserted, its story began collapsing, creating a recursive breakdown of the narrative structure. This collapse involves narrative hazards, dangerous combinations of story elements that can erase or corrupt entire realities. In A3, the hazards merge with the King, who is now attempting to escape into our universe. Because that universe is more fictional, it has greater anomalous capabilities to threaten baseline reality. Vemoff strongly opposes any further interference, warning that altering fundamental structures of reality is too dangerous. Ashworth suggests that magical or reality-bending countermeasures, but PHMD dismisses them. Thaumaturgy won't work across universes, and the only known being capable of ontokinetic manipulation on that scale is SCP-3812, which makes the situation even riskier. Team debates extreme options like total reality alteration, with Vemoff condemning the others as reckless. The meeting ends with PHMD suggests reframing the problem itself as if reality were a joke, hinting at manipulating narrative structures in an unorthodox way. Project Ex Diablos Success Report March 13th, 2030. Intent: maintain SCP-6747-A3's narrative dimensionality at a level which renders SCP-6747-C and its vectors ineffective. This requires the indefinite creation of fictionalized documents regarding SCP-6747-A3, possessing enormous volumes of narrative energy, an ongoing database of which is stored within the undisclosed Site-87 database. By instating high-energy narrative structures with SCP-6747-A3, interest in hyper-narrative entities will cause it to gain more narrative dimensionality and consequently become more real. This will proceed until its deviance from normality is insufficient to allow for SCP-6747-C's inter-narrative capabilities. Result: containment apparently successful. 0 instances detected since procedure, as it can no longer be transmitted via SCP-6747-C. Furthermore, it has been found that comedic and exaggerated narrative structures and caricatures have the greatest effectiveness in raising SCP-6747-A3's narrative dimensionality. The universe has since been redesignated TL-6747-A3, the LOL Foundation. Update: June 6, 2030. Regular monitoring of a hyper-narrative activity regarding SCP-001 Swan Raider entities has revealed catastrophic damage to the structural integrity of a higher narrative universe partially responsible for imagining various timelines adjacent to baseline reality. Data regions consistent with were found. Among this universe's narrative structures and subsequently expunged from all relevant documentation, the extent of SCP-6747-C's involvement, if any, is unknown. While this would typically be cause for concern, it appears SCP-6747-A3 does not endanger internarrative relationships, which are essential to the existence of the baseline foundation, as it is pacifistically linked to and therefore dependent on baseline reality. Hostile anti-Naramplex purged. System lock disengaged. Fourth wall unstable. Hypernarrative derealization imminent. Fourth wall broken. A storyline sought to control and unexact its mortal toll. Another realm, it's wrought anew, with a twisted caricature of you. Who from our makers were uncrossed, Lightspeed Ape will exact the cost.
The fun never ends.